Okay, now the next part of further statistics is the distribution. Now in this section we're going to be looking at how data is spread out. Okay, so depending on what the data is talking about, we want to discuss how spread the data is to examine its behavior. So say for example an exam, if the exam marks of the school students are too spread out, it's not very good indication, it's not very reliable as that everyone is doing at different pace. Okay, but if the data is closer together at a higher level, then it's a good indication that the class is doing well as a whole. Okay, so this is the kind of idea we're going to be looking at in this lesson, so let's get started. Starting with calculating the standard deviation. Now in this section it's a good idea to have your calculator ready, because I'm going to show you how to apply some calculator programs and how to apply those techniques in your exam as well. Okay, so let's get started with this section. Starting with question 1. Okay, I've got some data here, okay, some set of scores, and I'm going to find the mean of the data. Now the mean is an easy one, you know how to find the mean, which is simply the average. So I'm going to go ahead and find the mean by adding up all the scores and dividing up by the number of scores. So there's 7 scores altogether, so I'm just going to divide it by 7. Now you'll see this quite often, X with the dash on top, that's the symbol for the mean. Okay, so make sure you can indicate what that is when you see that symbol. Okay, so that's question 1A. So simply calculate it, you should get something like that. Just simplify the top and it simplifies to 22. Okay, so that's the mean of this data. Now in part B, we're going to go ahead and find the standard deviation of the data to 1 decimal place. So now standard deviation is the most approximate indication of the spread, okay, a spread of the data. And we use that to determine the consistency of given scores. So I'll show you the way how to find the standard deviation manually with our hand. So have a look. So it's a good idea to start with a table like this. So this is the data that we had. Okay, let's put it all there. And remember our mean was 22. So this is our mean and this is our data. Okay, so I'm going to try to subtract the mean from our given data. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to go 17 minus the mean of 22, which gives -5. Now in this one, I'm going to square the answer that we have. Okay, so I'm going to square -5, which becomes positive 25. So all the answers here will be positive. Okay, now this time, 18 is the data, so I'm going to go 18 minus 22, which gives -4. Square it to give you a value of 16, and etc. So I'll do the next one. 20 minus the mean equals to -2. Square it, gives you 4. 21 minus 22 is -1. Square it, gives you 1. 24 minus 22, 2. Square it, you get 4. This time you get 3. Squared is 9. So I see I'm subtracting the mean each time to the data. And 29 minus the mean is 7. Squared is 49. Now I need to add all this up to get the total. So once you've squared everything, add it all up. Just use a calculator if you need to, and you should get 108. Okay, so I've got 108 as the total. Yeah, so this is the trick, guys. Always subtract the mean from the data. So square it, add it all up, and see what you get. And that's not the end though. What you're going to do is, now this is the symbol for standard deviation. Okay, so this is the mean, this is the standard deviation. So make sure you can identify that symbol. So the standard deviation is always the square root of this value, the total, divided up by how many scores. So like the mean, we divide it by how many scores we have. We have 7 scores, so you divide it up by 7. Okay, and then make sure you square root it. So it's a little more than the mean, and that should give you a value of 3.9. Okay, so have a good look at that one. So make sure you memorize that method, okay, because that's how you do it with your hand. Now C says find the mean of this data using the stat function of the calculator. Okay, so in this section I'm going to show you how to find the mean, okay, the same mean that we had in part A, but I'm going to show you how to get that with your calculator, so watch carefully. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to find the mean and standard deviation by using our system in the calculator. So there's a function called the stat function, and that's what we're going to be using. So watch carefully and follow the steps and try to remember them as we go. So I'm going to start by finding our mean. So when we do this, we simply press Shift, Mode. There's a lot of options that you can take, but I'm going to scroll down, and number 3, you can see the one called stat. That's the function we're going to be using. So press 3, and it will ask you if you want to turn the frequency on or off. So simply press 1 because we want the frequency to be on. So now that we've done that, we go to mode. There's 2 options you can take, but again, we're going to take the stat option. So press 2. And when you get here, you're going to see a lot of options again. But when we're looking at this function, we always want to concentrate on VAR. See how number 1 says 1 minus VAR? That's the function we're going to be using. So press 1, and this is what you'll be seeing on your screen. So X is the scores, so we're going to be putting the scores, all the data in the X column. And this one here, FREQ, that means frequency. So we're going to put how many of each score we're going to be putting. So depending on how many scores we have. But in this question, we only have one of each score or data. So I'll show you what I'm going to do, starting with 17. So put your first score in and then press equal. And as soon as we do that, you'll see 1 under the frequency of 17. That's because we have 117. But we can change that later. But if you don't change it, it will automatically be 1. Okay, but that's what we want for now because we only have 117. Now I'll put the rest of the scores, 18, and then press equal. Then we have 20, and then press equal. So you press equal after every score. And then 21 equals, 24 equal, 25 equal, and finally 29 equal. And you'll see all the frequencies just 1 because we only have 1 of each. But if there happens to be more, we can change it. But we only need 1 for each one here, so we'll leave it like that. So now that we've put in all the scores, you simply press AC and clear the screen. So now that we've put in all the scores, I want to find our mean. So what we do now is go to Shift, and then here above your 1, you'll see a stat. So that's what we're going to be using. So after you press Shift, we press 1, and you'll see some options again. And remember how I told you I want to use the VAR function, the VAR, so we use number 4. And have a look, guys. See number 2 with X with the stroke on top? Remember how I told you that's the symbol for the mean? So if you press number 2, we will get the mean. And have a look at the number 3. That symbol there, hope that's familiar. That's also the symbol for standard deviation. So if you want to find the mean, you press 2. If you want to find the standard deviation, you press 3. But for this question, we want the mean, so we press 2. Equals, and you get 22. So the mean of this score is simply 22. So we got an answer of 22, just like we had in part A. Okay, so see how you get the exact same answer? So make sure you're trying to remember that method. Now this time, in part D, I'm going to calculate the standard deviation with the same function, the stat function of the calculator. Now this requires a few more steps as well, but just keep an eye on it and I'll show you how to do that with the calculator. This question, we want to find the standard deviation. Now remember we put in all the scores, all the data in the previous question, haven't we, when we were finding the mean? So this time we don't have to put in all the scores again. We only need to press Shift 1, go to VAR, VAR, so number 4, and then you'll come to this screen again. So I hope this screen is familiar for you. So previously we found the mean by pressing 2, but this time we want the standard deviation, so we look at 3, number 3. So we simply press 3 equals, and you get this number here. So in this question, the answer for the standard deviation is simply 3.9. So see how we didn't have to put in all the scores again? You can simply use the stat function to find the standard deviation straight away. So the answer is 3.9, just like we had in the previous part, part B. Okay, so see how we got the exact same answer? So use that calculator method, Okay, even in your exam you can use it, okay, so the teachers won't not allow you to use it. You can always use that, so try to remember it because it's much more quicker and you can save time in your exam. That's D. Now question 2, we've got a few more scores in this data, so I've got another set of scores given. Now in part A I'm going to find the mean again, so I'm simply going to add up all the scores and divide it by the number of scores. But remember guys, this time we have 3 12s, 4 14s, we've got more than one particular score, haven't I? So what I'll do to find the mean, I go 10 plus 12 times 3, because there's 3 12s, 4 times 14, and etc. So just multiply and reduce your working out. And there's 16 scores in total, so divide out by 16. Okay, so just calculate that, simplify it, and you should get 14. Okay, that's your mean, so have a look. So just check that you got the same answer as me. Now in B again, I'm going to find my standard deviation. So I'm going to do the same process. So this one, I'm going to subtract the mean from my starter or score. So starting with the first one, 10. The mean was 14, so I'm subtracting 14 from 10, which gives you -4. Now the frequency, the reason why I'm adding frequency here is because there's more than one same score. So I'm going to try to get the frequency correct so I can reduce some working out. So how many 10s are there? Simply 1, so the frequency is 1. So this time I'm going to multiply the frequency to the value of this squared, okay, because there's more than one of the same value. So frequency here is 1, and -4 squared is 16, which gives you a total of 16. Now the second one, same way, 12 minus the mean of 14, which gives -2. And there's 3 12s, so the frequency is simply going to be 3. And here I have to multiply the frequency of 3 to the square of this value, which is 4. So it gives 12. Okay, so this is the same way as we did in the previous question, but we're just multiplying the frequency because there's more than one same value. So 14 minus the mean is simply 0. So then there's 4 14s, so the frequency is 4. But if I multiply the frequency with 0 squared, it's still just 0. So that's just 0. Same way here, 15 minus the mean is 1. There's 6 15s, so the frequency is 6. And frequency times 1 squared, which is simply 1, just 6. And the final one, 16 minus 14 is 2. There's 2 16s, so frequency is 2. So frequency of 2 times 2 squared, which is 4, gives you 8. Okay, so this time I'm going to add all the frequency as well as this one as well. So add the frequency, you should get 16. So we already know that there's 16 values because we already counted that. But this one, when you add it up, you should get a value of 42. So now that I've got that, I'm going to find my standard deviation. Remember that symbol? It's always going to be the square root of this total value divided up by the frequency of 16. And just insert that into your calculator, you should get 1.6. Okay, so that's our standard deviation of the data. So there are quite a lot of steps, but that's the method, so make sure you also know that one. Okay, so this time I'm going to find the mean of the data using the stat function again. So I'll show you again using the calculator. So let's check if we get the same answer. So again, we're going to use our function on our calculator, the stat function, to find the mean first. So again, we're going to follow the same system, follow the same steps. So starting with shift mode, scroll down, and you'll see number 3, stat. So 3. Now the frequency, we want it to be on, so press 1. And then go to mode, and we want the stat function, so press 2. And this is what you'll see on your screen. And remember the VAR, that's what we want. So number 1 is what we want. And this is what you'll see again on your screen. So again, we're going to put in all our data. And this time, have a look closely at your scores. We're going to have a close look at the frequency, because see how in this one we have more than one for some of the scores? So I'll show you how to do that onto our calculator. Starting with 10, the first score, press equal, and see how under the frequency is 1, and that's what we want, isn't it? Because there's only 1 10. Now it's going to be automatic if you simply press equal and don't fix the frequency. Now with 12, which is the next score, simply press equal again, and you'll see 1 under the frequency as well. Now I want to change the frequency of 12 this time because in this question there's 3 12s. So go up, go right, and fix it and press 3. So you press equal and it will change to 3. Okay, so that's how you change the frequency of a particular score. So now go back to your left hand side and we're going to add in the next score, which is 14. Press equal. The frequency is automatically 1, but we want to change it to 4 because there's 4 14s. So go up, go right, and press 4. Fix it as 4 and press equal to. And you'll get frequency of 4 for 14. Now go back to your left. We want to press 15, which is the next score. Press equal, and again we want to arrange the frequency to a different number because in this question there's 6 15s. So change that to 6 and press equal. So you're always pressing equal after the number that you put in. Go back to your left and our final number is 16, equal, and in this question there's 2 16s. So go back up, right, and fix it to 2, equal. So now that we've altered all the frequencies, we have finished putting in all the data. So we'll press AC, Shift 1, and we want the var, so number 4, and we want the mean, don't we? So remember that symbol under 2? That's the mean symbol, so we're going to press 2. And again press equal, and that's what you're going to get. So 14 is the mean for this question. So I've got the same answer, 14. So the mean is 14 as we calculated in part A. Okay, so I hope you're getting familiar with the method. In part D, we're going to again calculate the standard deviation using the same stat function. Okay, so watch carefully. Okay, this time we're going to be finding the standard deviation. Now again, we've put in all the data for the previous question when we're finding the mean, so there's no need to put in the data again. All we need to do this time is simply press Shift 1, go to our VAR, which is number 4, and our standard deviation is number 3, and you can recognize it by that symbol. So number 3 equals, so that will be our standard deviation. So to one decimal place it will be 1.6. And we get the same value that we did in part B, 1.6. Okay, so make sure you're following carefully and trying to remember as we go, okay, because it's important for you to remember that. That was question 2, D. Now question 3, the table below shows the scores obtained by 10 boys and 10 girls on a maths test. So these are the scores of the boys and the below is the girls. Okay, and remember that symbol? That's the mean, and this is the average scores of the boys and girls, and this is the standard deviation symbol, so it shows us the spread as given. Okay, so let's examine the different scores. The question's asking us which group of students achieve the more consistent results. Okay, more consistent. Okay, which means which team worked better as a whole. Okay, and showed more reliable results. Now, as you can see, the average, the boys are actually better, just by a little, but they are still better, okay, if you calculate the mean. But have a look at the standard deviation. The boys have a much higher standard deviation, which means the scores are more spread out. So the more spread out the scores are, it's the less consistent, okay, but we want to know which one has more consistent results. So the standard deviation for the girls' results is lower, okay, the lower the better. So the girls achieve the more consistent results. Okay, and that's it. So you should keep a better eye on the standard deviation. Okay, the less the better. That's question 3. Okay, question 4A, we're going to start by completing the table. Okay, so they give us the data, they give us the frequency. All we need to work out is the cumulative frequency and the rank. So starting with the first one, cumulative frequency, 6. We add 2 to get 8, add 5 to get 13, add 8 to get 21, add 13 to get 34, and add 1 to get 35. Okay, so that's the cumulative frequency. So in total we have 35 scores. Now the rank, we're going to have an eye on the cumulative frequency. That's the rank, and as you can see, in the first one, there's 6 scores. So the first score up to the 6th score has a data of 9. Okay. Now, from the 7th score to the 8th score, because see how the value cumulative frequency has 8. So from the 7th score, which is the next score after 6, up to the 8th is representing the 10th, the data of 10. Okay. Now that's 8, so the next score up would be 9, and 9 up to 13th score will indicate the data of 11, sorry. Okay, so 11, and etc. Can you see how it's working? And with the final one, we've got 22 to 34. 22nd score to the 34th score indicates the data of 13, and the next score up after 34 is 35. But 35 is the last score, isn't it? Because there's 35 scores. So 35, the rank of this one is just 35. Okay, so it's just one score there. So that's the group, that's the table that I've just done. So you should be already used to this because we've done this quite a few times in the last lesson. So that's A, let's move on. We need to find the mean. Okay, so I'm going to try to use the calculator for this one because it's much more quicker and I don't need to write a lot. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to use our function in our calculator again to find the mean. So we'll use the same steps, starting with shift, mode, scroll down, stat function. So number 3, frequency, on, number 1. And then we go to mode, stat, so number 2, and remember the VAR, so number 1. And then that will appear on your screen again. So let's put in all the data again, and this time have a close look at your question, and we want to put all the frequencies in the right way. So starting with our first score, which is 9, equal, and we want to fix the frequency, go back to 6, equal. So you always press equal after each number. Now go back to your left, and we want to put the next score, which is 10, equal, go back up, right, and fix it to 2 because there's 2 10s, equal, go back to your left, press the next score, which is 11, equal, go back and fix it to 5, equal, go back left, and our next score is 12, equal, go back and fix the frequency to 8, now go back and press 13, our next score, equal, and there's 13 13s, so I'm going to press 13, equal. Now final score is 14, and press equal, and there's only one 14, so we don't have to change the frequency, do we? So leave it like that, and we've put in all the scores, we simply press AC. Now all we need to do is find the mean, so go to shift 1, number 4, which says VAR, so 4, and you should recognize the mean symbol, number 2 there, so press 2, equal, and that's what you should get. Okay, so to one decimal place, 11.7 is your mean. Okay, so by using the calculator, we found that it's 11.7. Okay, so how easy was that? Have a look. Now I'm going to find the median. This one you should be quite used to because we've done a lot of these in the previous lesson when we've done measures of the distribution. So I'm going to start by looking at how many scores there are. Well, there's 35 scores in total. When we find the mean, we always divide that by 2 because mean is the 50% mark. So 35 divided into 2 should give you a score of 17.5. Okay, there's odd number of scores, so we're going to have a fixed score as our median. So the 18th data is our median since 17.5, sorry. If you have a decimal, I told you we always round it up, which is going to be 18. So the 18th score or the data will be the median. And 18 is over here, isn't it? Which gives you a data of 12, so 12 is our median. Okay, so hope you guys are already really good at this stuff. This median, finding the median. Okay, so that was the median. Let's move on. The mode. Okay, you should already know that mode is the most frequent occurring data. Okay, so have a look at the frequency. Which one has the highest frequency? 13. And what data represents that one? 13. So the most frequent data is 13. Okay. Now we're going to find the standard deviation. So we're going to find it by using the calculator, okay, because it's much more quicker and I like using the calculator. So have a look and make sure you can follow. Okay, to find the standard deviation, again, leave everything else because we've already put in all the data when we were doing the mean, so we don't have to put that in again. So to find the standard deviation, simply press Shift 1 and of course go to VAR, so number 4, and the symbol for standard deviation is over there for number 3, so simply press 3 equal and you get the standard deviation right away. So 1.5 is your standard deviation. And by using the calculator, we get a value of 1.5. Okay, so hope you're getting used to it, trying to remember it very thoroughly. Okay, have a look. And that was the standard deviation.